So, hi everyone. I'm super excited to be with you again, yet another year. And before saying anything, I'm so honored to be in this conference. It's like the holy conference for Vuejs ecosystem. And every year when attendees come and all the developers around the world gather together, I think it's lots of pump of energy. Many things that people are talking around in this conference are basically because we love you. We want to share something new to you. And I think the things that I'm going to talk today, I think many of them was motivated because of this conference. So huge love from here. So today we are going to have a huge announcement about upcoming and new features in Nitro and Nuxt. I'm Pooya Parsa, or PI0. I'm working on unjs ecosystem with Nuxt team and Nitro project. You can find me in social media, but probably also more active in GitHub. So before everything, who used Nitro before? Cool. Cool. Who used Nuxt before? OK, so one answer. If you are using Nuxt, you're already using Nitro. Nitro is the server engine behind Nuxt. So Nuxt 3 started to be a full-stack framework. In Nuxt 3, you have a good UI library that you can have SSR to enhance it for better performances, but it's half of it. In Nuxt 3, you have a full-stack framework. You can build a full application that you can deploy it everywhere with everything that you need. And Nitro is the server part of this engine. One of the things about Nitro is that it's following the same philosophy of Nuxt, but for the servers. It provides you everything that you need out of the box. So usually, most of the cases, you are not going to find answers elsewhere or make your own. Everything is prepared out of the box, and everything is pre-configured out of the box. And you can deploy your application everywhere you want. Usually in the frameworks, when they are not independent or driven by an enterprise company, they are designed to work with specific providers. While when we designed Nitro, we had this kind of mindset that same as Vue, same as everything that is around the ecosystem, we want to be free. We want freedom. We want to, when someone makes a backend, when someone wants to make a server, they can have this choice to deploy it everywhere they want. And this is not an easy thing, because it's really hard to consider differences between different platforms, consider all this. It's much harder than what we have to do for the browsers to work, a website working across browsers. But that's our mission, and that's what we are pushing for. You can read more about the Nitro in the Nitro documentation, and we have a brand new documentation for it. Before going to the announcement, there is another part of this story, unjs. So what's unjs? Anyone heard about unjs? OK, interesting. More people than Nitro. You can also discover more about unjs in this website. Unjs is basically an effort that is started alongside with Nuxt 3 to basically extract the parse, the good parts that we are developing inside Nuxt, within Nuxt, and share them with the whole ecosystem. So if there is any other framework, either if you are going to make your own meta framework, and you are probably going to face the same requirements that Nuxt has, why keep it private? So the philosophy was to make it free, make it open for everyone. So if we make a solution, we make everyone to benefit from it, even if they are not using Nuxt. And I think it's a unique philosophy that we started to push forward, and I'm so glad that some others started to follow this philosophy. And I'm super glad with what happened in unjs after a year. Today, we have more than 50 packages for loading configuration, for generating your changelogs, which you will see later, the server framework for optimizing images, the server backend for making requests, for routing, even the routing core, the radix splitter, for example, basically everything that you need. And some of them took a lot of time. They are simple, but simple is hard. Sometimes some of them took a year for me to think about how to make something, but make it simple. And it was a really hard job. Today, if we want to look at the stats of unjs, it's really impressive. Honestly, I was impressed because I wasn't frequently checking the download stats. And for comparison, how much download you can guess, for example, a big framework like React has, like Vue has per month, 20 million. unjs, in total, the packages has 376 million downloads per month. It's a lot of responsibility, and honestly, I see it as a lot of love, because many others, even including the React ecosystem, many of the packages started to depend on the solutions that we make at unjs, basically mainly for Vue and Nuxt, but they are open for everyone. So this is a clear indication that people can benefit from each other. And it's also coming back because when more people are using a library, it's more contribution, it's more quality code because there are more people that are testing it. We have more than 47,000 stars in GitHub in total of repositories. There are more than 55 packages in the unjs ecosystem, more than 150 contributors, unique contributors that worked on them, and more than 4,600 commits. I probably messed up with my slides. No, here is it. There's also a link you can see more of the stats and what happened during the time. We also worked on a brand new documentation. Honestly, when we started working on unjs, I was under a lot of pressure because we wanted to deliver Nux 3. It was, I think, almost 2 years we didn't release it, and we wanted to, at the same time, open the solutions. So when we started making unjs, many of the documentations was not complete. Even some of the pages didn't have the proper documentation. Just before this conference, we started to building a unique documentation tooling called undocs, which is zero config, same as Nux, but made for documentation. It's powered by Nux and Nux UI Pro, and it's used everywhere in the unjs. It's helping us to increase the documentation because it was something that was people requiring for us for a long time. So you probably, if you go to the unjs ecosystem, you see more of these documentations in the future. Okay, the cool thing, Nitro 2.6. Just 2 minutes ago, I released 2.6, or maybe earlier. Here we go. And we are going to discover what's new in this release of Nitro. Just to be sure, we tested everything thanks to the ecosystem CI of Vue and the one that Daniel worked for, the Nux. We tested everything before releasing. So all of these releases are with full confidence that there is no regressions. The first thing that is coming, Tasks API. One of the long-lasting things in Nitro was that if you are going to make a backend framework, it is not always the HTTP request that is coming that you want to do something. Sometimes you want to do something on demand, like a webhook, or you want to do something like in background, for example, fetching your database from an external CMS, or clean up your caches. How to do this? How to run a database migration in production if it's just a HTTP request service? Yes, of course, you can make an HTTP endpoint for it. You can make it protected, but it's hard, and you have to take care of every detail. So we made a new API called Tasks API. Tasks, like everything else in Nux and Nitro, are super easy. They are fully typed. You just use a utility called define task, and you put it to a directory, and using file name and file system conventions, the task name is generated. That's it. You define your metadata for your task, which is useful for DevTools and other places, and you define your run application. The run program accepts a payload, which is coming from the caller, and the context that gives you access to the native platform context, that if you want to, for example, access a Cloudflare binding, for example. And you can leverage auto imports. That's it. That's all the code in the file. You just call one of your auto imports like database migration, and we will see this in action very soon. The task API could be easily called using run task utility. They run in the background, and there is a guarantee that there is just one instance of them running at the same time. So there is no concurrency issues if there is overlapping. And of course, you can have scheduled tasks. If you wanted to make them automated, if you want to run them after a period of time, you can just use scheduled tasks. One configuration, and it's all. Something really powerful about how we do things and solve solutions in Nitro, same as Nux, is that we care about platform differences. So what is written here, it's not considering how it's deployed. If you are deploying to Cloudflare, we use the native feature of it. If you are deploying to a normal Node.js server, we use cron package for the node. So it's truly platform agnostic. You configure it once, it's guaranteed to work everywhere that you want. The second thing that we are introducing in this version of Nitro was WebSockets. WebSockets is powered by a new framework that we specifically developed within unjs called CrossWS. If you have worked before with WebSockets, yeah, they are for, I think, 16 years or many long years available. But there is no single agreement how to write a WebSocket server. Every runtime, Node.js, has at least 2 of them. It has a community-driven WS package. They have another package, UWS, Ultra WebSockets. Bond has their own API. New providers like Cloudflare has their own API. Dino has its own API. And we wanted to support WebSockets 1 year ago. And honestly, it was something really easy. We waited for 1 year to make this happen. What's different about it? It's platform agnostic. You don't have to worry about how to write it. You just write it once in a Nux way, and we care about the rest of it. This is how simple you can define a WebSocket handler. You just use something similar to a route. You handle the upgrade if you want to set some headers like authentication or handle it, and you have some lifecycle hooks. They are performant because unlike many current implementations that make callbacks for every request that is coming, they are defined once. And there is a stateful PR object that is shared between these hooks. So yeah, you can just retrieve the state from them. And yeah, that's honestly it. And very soon you will see how in action it could help you to make even more complex applications without worrying about the differences. You can develop it wherever you want and deploy it wherever you want. And something other specific about it is that we support routing. Usually when you develop a WebSocket server, it's purposed. So it can just have one handler, one set of handlers for routes, and it responds. But this architecture is pluggable. So if there are Nux modules, if there are different teams at your project that they want to have their own handlers, it can be routed. As you can see in the top, it is routed. OK, let's introduce another thing. We also introduced a database layer to the core of Nitro. It means that every Nux project that you begin, it's already configured with a database that works out of the box. Yes, there are so many ORMs that can do this for you. There are so many providers that can do this for you. But what if you want to have a simple application? So we developed yet another package within unjs called DB0. DB0 is a lightweight connector. If you've worked with PHP before, it's like PDO. And it's the connector. So it's a lightweight thing that works and just works. And you can see how is the usage. You start a Nux application. You use the composable called use database. And you can already run your queries. Honestly, if there's a simple project, it's all that you need. Not any complexity for making all the setups. And it's also pluggable. So like everything else, it's not just one single solution. It's open. If you want to choose an ORM, if you want to go more advanced, you can easily integrate the already configured database layer, database API, to your SQLite compatible ORM. So it's not also limiting you. You can choose whatever you want. One of the other things that we worked during development on this release of Nitro is WebAssembly. You probably heard about WebAssembly. WebAssembly is basically a runtime that can run native code in JS-compatible environments. But there is a hard point about it. If you have ever used WebAssembly or if you try to depend on a WebAssembly-based library, it's a disaster. If you want to deploy it somewhere, if you want to take attention about, for example, how Cloudflare work is expecting it, how each specific library is working, it's a real disaster. So there was a work group, there is actually a work group and a proposal within WebAssembly that they wanted to make the usage easier. And this proposal was basically what it was saying was that using a WebAssembly file should be as easy as importing it, while today it's not possible. So, well, that's a proposal. We could wait for, I think, 5 years to make it possible, or we could just hack our own way. So we made another library called unwasp. Unwasp is implementing this proposal with what is possible in current ecosystem. So today, you can import a WASP file just like it's proposed for future. And when the future is ready, we can switch back. So we just make sure that everything is future possible. And today, this is used by Shiki package, which is the syntax highlighter in Nux content and different packages. And it can make deployments much more lighter because we don't need to embed, for example, string files. OK, demo time. I introduced some of the features, but yeah, before that, I was thinking that how would they use this in whole? So I made a simple chat application using all the features that we introduced, and it's already deployed. Here we go. I try to reconnect if I'm OK. You can also try to connect. It's hosted on a Raspberry Pi board on my home, because last night I was trying to deploy my Nitro application somewhere. Honestly, it was frustrating. No single provider was stable for what I needed. So thank you for joining. That's a single board. I hope it doesn't break, but I'm pretty sure it's not. You can see. It's fast, right? Because it's running Bun, and Bun is super efficient. We don't need to pay €1,000 per month to host it, just a board. And Later, we'll see how easy it is to write something and choose where you want to deploy it. It's your home or it's a cloud provider, whatever you want. OK, let's go to the code. Yeah, I will just also open it here so we can see. Guys, stop. OK, so it's whatever it takes. Basically, whatever I introduce, they are experimental features because we wanted to make sure. I don't know if you can see it properly. Is it OK? So I enabled 3 of these experimental features that we introduced today. In production, that's a new convention, by the way, if you don't know about it. Thank you. It's working. I can't believe. I'm going to cry. Can someone make a video of this? So yes, that's how I configured it for my production server. Let's see what's happening in my server, by the way. No, it's good. It's really good. Thank you. OK. So some of the boring stuff, the front end, it's all, by the way, thanks to the Tailwind module that Sebastian made. It's the UI, and this is how you connect to a WebSocket server from the client. I know it's stupid, sorry. But yeah, that's simple. What we care about is the backend. This is the backend. Really, that's the backend. So whenever there is an open connection, I try to retrieve the user ID. I use the query parameter for it. It's also called from one of the utilities we already have. What's that long thing? Is ChatGPT? And there is also a stats endpoint. There are some interesting points about it. Ask your how fast you make it. Yeah, this is that simple. This is the secret point about it. There is a pop-sub support in this WebSocket library. So whenever a peer is joining the server, we subscribe it to the chat channel. And yeah, we just say hello to others, like someone joined. What the fuck? When there is a message, yeah, we also support ping. We can publish the chat to others, and we can echo it back to the same user. Whenever there is a pops-up, the message goes to every other user, but not the user itself. So we can also echo it back to the user so they see what they sent. And it's also integrated with the database. If you notice, if I refresh this page, all the previous chats are preserved. How? It's super easy again. It's this add message. And honestly, it's something interesting last night, by the way. This is the usage with use database. Last night I wanted to make this demo, and I started to type db.sql. I have Copilot enabled. Copilot wrote this code for me. Honestly, I didn't write any of this. It was Copilot. I think 5 seconds, it was done. So I love ORMs, but if I want to make a demo like this, yeah, it's already easy and done. We also use Tasks API. So there is a init plugin in Nitro that when we start the server, we do the database migration. And inside the database migration, we already implemented it. And here is how we call it, how we call the migration script. It could be much more different, but it was just a demo. That's all. OK, we are not stopping, honestly. Like, there are so many things that we want to introduce. And I wanted to introduce more features for this conference. We really had to test it more. So the first task after 2.9 that is released today is to stabilize these features. We are so much looking forward for your feedback, for your improvements. We know that they are not complete, and we want to complete them. And in next minor release, we hope to stabilize all these 3 experimental features. Something really exciting that I'm thinking that we can start to work on is the width mode experimental feature in Nitro. Long time ago, I think Nux was one of the first SSR frameworks that tried to adopt width at the time that there was no server support for it. There was super limited support. Most of the plugins wasn't supporting it, and we hacked our way around. After, I think, 2 years, width has something really exciting. They have built-in node server support. So now it's time for Nitro to migrate back to its core. And by migrating from rollup to width, we can make the hot module replacement much faster. And something exciting is that in Nitro, in dev server, you usually have to basically, we run a Node.js server, but sometimes we want to exactly test something that is in production. So a new architecture is coming to make it possible. So if, for example, you are planning to deploy your application to Cloudflare workers, you can use exactly the same environment in your development time. And that's something planned for the future version. Also, we are working on the runtime testing utilities, so we can health check and run some sanity checks, for example, making sure our APIs are working in production deployment, not during dev, not using mocking or end-to-end testing, but in real production. Thank you so much. Please drop us a message if you want to be contacted or if you want to contribute to some of these packages. Next talks are much more exciting, the ones that Daniel are going to mention, and something really exciting that Sebastian is going to mention that is coupling with this about full stack Next. So I really invite you to keep attention to next ones. Thank you so much.